Part 162. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1611. As soon as Feng Qingxiu finished speaking, Director Lu naturally agreed and invited the couple to sit on the upper seats. He personally brought wedding candy and tea to the table. He, who was originally the person to host the wedding, wanted to ask Lu Zhang to host it. The military commander presided over the wedding and word spread, what a scene it was. After all, Han Ping had been with Lu Zhang for several years, and it was Lu Zhang who saved his life. Lu Zhang agreed without any hesitation. It was originally meant to support Han Ping, and hosting the wedding was also a way to do it. As for how to host a wedding, if you have never eaten pork, have you never seen a pig run away? He, Lu Zhang, was very smart and had already ingrained the scene of a mass wedding in the army into his mind. The Lu family and the Han family were very happy, and their faces suddenly glowed. Han Ping and Lu Yan were also flattered. Feng Qingxiu just watched her husband preside over a formal wedding ceremony. Compared with the collective wedding of the border guards more than 10 years ago, today there is only one bride and groom, and they have a red book in their hands when they take the oath, and the content of the oath is but there is no difference. Han Ping and Lu Yan were both wearing military uniforms, and at first glance they looked like two soldiers married. Military uniform is one of the most fashionable clothes in this era. At a glance, there are more than a dozen of the guests here wearing old military uniforms. Of course, they are not the standard uniforms issued by the army, but they are made from military green fabrics purchased by themselves. Some of them were wearing the uniforms of the police station, and their identities were clearly identifiable. There were not many people, only 30 or 40 people in total, and 3 or 4 tables were set up. The food was pretty good. The staple food was white flour steamed buns and rice. Each table had 8 dishes, mostly stews, with half meat and half vegetables. The dish was stewed vermicelli with pork and cabbage, which was filled into a large bowl. Lu Zhang also had a bottle of Fenjiu and a bottle of Maotai on the table. It can be seen that Han Ping went all out to prepare for his wedding. Because in addition to the bride and groom, more and more people came to toast Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu, and even cotters from several agencies and units near the police station heard about it, so Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu soon became famous in the name of work. Leave early. Han Ping and Lu Yan arrived at the door. Lu Ran, who had gone out to drive one step ahead, suddenly came over with an ugly expression on his face, holding a basket in his hand and covered with a small rag quilt. What happened? Lu Zhang asked in a deep voice. Lu Ran handed the basket to him and Feng Qingxiu uncovered a corner of the ragged quilt. Look. Feng Qingxiu saw at a glance that there was a little baby in the basket. Although it was wrapped in a shabby swaddling clothes and covered with a small tattered quilt, the swaddling clothes and the shabby quilt were not thick, and it was extremely cold in Wuchen. The cold made the little guy's face turn purple and he was dying. The cry was barely audible. Where did it come from? Feng Qingxiu frowned. Lu Ran replied, I picked it up in front of our car. I didn't see anyone. I don't know who put it there. I walked from behind the car and opened the driver's door. I got in and was about to start the car. If I hadn't suddenly heard the baby's weak cry was probably caused by the car running over it, because the basket was placed on the handrail under the front of the car, and I probably wouldn't have noticed it even if I stood in front of the car. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu's expressions were very ugly, and Han Ping, Lu Yan, Director Lu, and others who followed them also couldn't believe it. Is this a scam? Feng Qingxiu thought in her heart. Thinking is one thing, but we really can't be indifferent to the baby in the basket, so the group moved to the police station. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1612. Lu Zhang sent Han Ping and Lu Yan to greet their guests, but kept Director Lu behind. Send someone to find out who has been wandering in front of the car with a basket, and then ask who has given birth to a child. If the child is left here, usually his home is nearby, not too far away, unless the other party specially comes from a distance. Yes, I'll send someone right away. Director Lu was about to send someone to investigate when Feng Qingxiu stopped him. By the way, let's check if the child was deliberately placed under the front tire of the car to kill the child. This is intentional homicide. Director Liu's heart trembled, and he suddenly asked, "Boss, look at it, is it a girl?" A large part of urban residents come from rural areas. As the director of the police station, Director Liu is often exposed to the following situations. He is aware of the many cases caused by the feudal ideology that favors boys over girls. No matter what is written on the wall, propaganda slogans such as "women hold up half the sky," equality between men and women, and infant drowning is intentional homicide still cannot change many people's mentality of favoring boys over girls. Han Ping once conducted a survey and found that 127 babies died in a certain people's commune within a year, including 108 female babies. They were also just born. Are female babies really not as strong as male babies? Obviously impossible. Therefore, the causes of death of 108 female infants can be imagined. There are always some parents who believe that they have the right to decide the life and death of their children. Faced with this situation, Director Liu was helpless. Feng Qingxiu asked Lu Zhang to pour hot water, unbuttoned her military coat, and cotton-padded jacket, and held the baby in her arms. She was wearing a military coat with lambskin, autumn clothes, and long trousers, cashmere clothes and trousers, a mink waistcoat, and the cotton-padded jacket issued by the army can be said to be fully equipped. The baby, who seemed to be just a few days old, actually knew how to stick it in her arms to absorb the warmth from her body. There was nothing in the basket that could reveal the baby's identity. The tattered swaddling clothes and small tattered quilt were washed very clean. Lu Zhang brought warm water and fed the baby a few sips. He untied the swaddling clothes and took a look. Sure enough, it was a baby girl. Lu ran, "Go to the cafeteria and ask for a bowl of rice soup. There is no milk or milk powder, so we can only feed him some rice soup first." Lu Ran agreed and left quickly. Seeing Feng Qingxiu wrapping the baby in a cotton-padded jacket and military coat with a gentle expression, Director Liu sighed slightly, meeting the two leaders. This child has saved a small life. No matter what, as long as he is healthy and has food to eat, this child can survive. At the same time, Director Liu also understood the reason for putting the child under the front tire of the car. "What's the reason?" Feng Qingxiu heard him speak and couldn't help but ask. Was there something she didn't know about? Director Liu whispered, "There is a saying, which is actually a kind of feudal superstition. It is said that the more miserably a baby girl dies after birth, the less likely she is to come back to take revenge on her parents, and the parents will have a boy in their next child. So, many baby girls died terribly. Some were drowned, some were buried alive, some had their heads smashed, some were strangled, and there were countless ways to die." A chill climbed up Feng Qingxiu's back, and her face turned as pale as paper. Under the influence of the Liu family's employment of maids and under Wang Zhenqiu's management, the slogan of gender equality after liberation was well publicized. And because Wang Zhenqiu doted on his only daughter, the Wanglu Brigade was regarded as the highest status brigade for girls from all over the country. Even so, there are people who prefer boys over girls in private, not to mention other places. In the 1980s and 1990s, this situation still existed in rural areas. It was said that the more tragic the death of a female baby, the better. So there is a reason why there are so many bachelors now. Our clan has not married a wife for more than 4 years. There were more than a dozen bachelor boys in their 20s and early 30s, and there seemed to be some in their early 30s. There were only 2 girls left who were still married. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1613. Feng Qingxiu was not the only one who was shuddering, even Lu Zhang also frowned. The same parents are of the same flesh and blood, so why should a baby girl deserve it? Without women, how could there be children in the world? The ignorance of the world is simply incomprehensible. Before the rice soup was ready, Han Ping and Lu Yan said hello to their relatives and friends who were eating, and first brought them blankets, diapers, and small clothes borrowed from neighbors. Before returning to the canteen, they also noticed the thinness of the swaddling clothes. I begged for 2 spoons of milk powder and brought it in a bowl, rushed it away and fed it to the little girl. The little baby girl was obviously very hungry and ate very deliciously. Taking the opportunity to change the swaddled diaper, Feng Qingxiu checked carefully and found that the baby girl was in good health and had no congenital diseases. There was a small red mole the size of a sesame seed on her left temple. At the same time, the police station did not find any clues. The jeep was parked beside the car in a grand manner, and many people came to see it. People came and went, but it was freezing cold, so when it was time to eat, everyone dispersed one after another, not caring whether anyone stuffed a basket under the car. Anyone who does this will definitely not give anyone a chance to discover him. Even if someone sees it, if the other person is fully armed, the person who sees it will not know who he is. Leader, what are the arrangements for this child? Han Ping asked. Feng Qingxiu thought for a while and asked, is there a children's welfare home in Wuchen? Their family already has 5 children. The couple are busy working all day long and have little time to spend with their children. The elderly help take care of the children, so it is impossible to adopt this baby, but they will not find anyone to adopt her for a while. The best solution is to send it to an orphanage, and they will provide some money and food stamps to raise it. Han Ping hesitated and said, yes. But the living conditions are not very good. After all, the children in the orphanage have no parents and no income, so they all rely on state funding. Some of those children were abandoned because of illness, and some were abandoned because of their gender. Children who were abandoned because of illness or who were sent to orphanages without parents were both male and female. 90% of the children who were abandoned because of their gender and were still healthy were girls. Orphans, there are too many people in the hospital, and the money allocated by the state is very stretched. Lu Zhang knew what he was thinking by looking at his expression, and said in a deep voice, let him be raised in an orphanage for now, and ask the police station to issue a certificate. I will ask someone to buy milk powder and bring it with him. Qingxiu, there are still old things for the child at home. Swaddles and old clothes and diapers and stuff like that. No, our children are all grown up, and the old clothes are being given away one after another. The last package of small clothes and swaddling diapers was sent to Aachen. Isn't Wengzia pregnant? Make preparations in advance. Feng Qing. After Xue answered this question, she then said, there is nothing we can do. I will make a few out of old clothes when I get home. Lu Zhang nodded, asked Director Lu to issue a certificate, and asked Lu Ran to buy a month's worth of milk powder. Wuchen borders on the grassland, where there are flocks of cattle and sheep, and there is a milk powder factory nearby, so Lu Ran quickly bought 4 bags of milk powder. 1 bag costs 3 yuan, 4 bags costs 12 yuan, and according to Feng Qing at Xue's request, he used food stamps to buy some biscuits and pastries. 6 taels of food stamps can buy 1 caddy, so he bought 20 caddies. Accompanied by Director Lu and Han Ping, Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu sent the baby girl to the orphanage. As a result, they were greeted respectfully by Director Lin. Back to the 60s, The Struggle Career of a Charmed Wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1614. After taking over the sleeping baby girl, Dean Lin promised, both leaders, Please rest assured that we will do our best to raise the child. The child is the flower of the motherland and the future of the motherland. Feng Qingxiu asked Lu Zhang to put the basket containing milk powder and biscuits on the office table, with 100 yuan and 30 kilograms of food stamps underneath. She said to Dean Lin, "This child has a hard life. He was born with put it under the car tire and almost die in the cold weather. We will be in trouble with Dean Lin in the future. If we are in Wuchen, we will send someone to send some money and food stamps or grain to the child as support in the future. I won't be in Wuchen anymore, and I will send my living expenses over on time." This was the result of her discussion with Lu Zhang on the road. It is impossible to adopt a child, but it is not a problem to provide some living expenses every month. Before Director Lin could answer, Director Lu said, "You don't need to give food stamps. Newborn babies are provided with 8 pounds of food rations every month. All orphans have it. Otherwise, how can they live?" "Yes, leader, as long as the country is here, as long as there are no health problems, all children can survive. It is just a harder life." Feng Qingxiu listened to the words of Director Lu and Dean Lin and smiled slightly. "That's what I said, but we found the child. We can't adopt her. If we don't give a little, we will always feel guilty." "You are so kind. Only kind people would feel this way. If the parents who abandoned their children had a little bit of kindness from you, these poor children would not be abandoned." Dean Lin's eyes flashed with admiration and he looked down. Looking at the little baby girl in his arms, "The child is destined to you too. It was only when he met you that the child saved his life. Please give the child a name." Feng Qingxiu didn't answer but asked, "What are the last names of the children in the orphanage?" "The boy's surname is Guo, and the girl's surname is Dang," Dean Lin replied. "Country. Party. The party of the country, the party of the party." Feng Qingxiu somewhat understood the meaning of these two surnames. She turned her head and thought for a moment, then said, "Dang, this is a good surname. When Dang is thinking of her, she should call her Dang Nian. What she is thinking of is not the kindness of all of us who saved her. It's the kindness the party and the country have shown her. Without the party and the country, she wouldn't even have a chance to survive." Dean Lin read the name twice, "Dang Nian, a good name, a good name, let's call it Dang Nian." Feng Qingxiu pointed to the biscuits in the basket again. "We didn't make any preparations here, so we bought some biscuits to share with the children in the orphanage. We'll come back another day when we have time." "You are too polite." Dean Lin couldn't help but feel a warm current in his heart. "Comrade Lin, you've bought it, just accept it. It's getting late, we should go back." Dean Lin handed Dang Nianan to the staff next to him and personally escorted them to the gate. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu said goodbye to Director Lu and Han Ping and his wife, and warned, "Xiao Han, if you have time, come often to check on the child. If you need anything, come to the army to see us." Han Ping said hurriedly, "Don't worry, I will find a family willing to adopt the children as soon as possible. Some people have children and are unwilling to raise them, while others remain childless throughout their lives. Han Ping works at the police station and has a wide network of contacts, so he can always find families without children." Lu Zhang nodded slightly. "You must continue to investigate who intentionally abandoned or even murdered the child. Yes, they must be brought to justice and let them taste the taste of being sentenced for intentional homicide. Only in this way can the situation caused by the patriarchal mentality be curbed from continuing to spread," Feng Qingxiu said. Director Lu agreed wholeheartedly. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1615. Sitting in the car going home, Feng Qingxiu felt quite depressed. "What's wrong?" Lu Zhang asked. Feng Qingxiu sighed. "From the incident of Nian being abandoned, we can see how many places in the world this kind of unfair treatment of girls exists, and how many girls died because of this before they saw the light of day. Why are people's hearts so vicious? During the 10th month of pregnancy, once you give birth, especially during childbirth, some people are at the point of life and death. A mother can actually kill the child she works so hard to give birth to. If you allow your family to kill him, you won't be afraid of nightmares when you wake up at midnight. Lu Zhang put his big hand on the back of her hand. The idea of favoring boys over girls has been around for a long time and cannot be changed overnight. All we can do is to try our best to arrange jobs for lesbians so that they do not have to rely on gay men to live together. We must also take time to promote the progressive ideas of gender equality. Having said this, he fell into thinking. Doesn't the army have a propaganda team? I'll write a few articles later and have the propaganda team go to the mountains and countryside to publicize, and stationed in various schools to fundamentally change their backward thinking. Feng Qingxiu felt that she had to do a good job. She has the writing power to write a few brainwashing articles. She lives in the 21st century and is exposed to a lot of information. Lu Zhang thought about it and thought it was feasible, so he agreed immediately. After what happened today, I suddenly felt a little grateful to my parents, Feng Qingxiu suddenly said after a moment of silence in the car. Lu Zhang didn't understand why she was grateful to Feng's father and Feng's mother, who favored sons over daughters. Feng Qingxiu withdrew her hand, held her chin and said, "Thank you for their kindness in not killing me and leaving Xiaoyun and I alive. Although we both lived a miserable life when we were young, at least our souls did not return to the underworld, and some of us did not return to the underworld. The reason is also living in troubled times." Lu Zhang smiled and sighed, "That's because you have a brother above you, so your gender doesn't matter." He chatted with director Lu for a long time, and found out from Han Ping's investigation that baby girls with brothers above them had a much greater chance of survival after birth. If there were no brothers above, the situation was exactly the opposite, and most of them were killed. Most of the baby girls have no brothers, and some families even kill 3 or 4 baby girls in succession until a son is born. Of course, there are families that give birth to a daughter for the first time or only have a daughter but do not kill the child, but the number is not as high as the former. After hearing this, Feng Qingxiu frowned. "Oh, so I have to thank those 2 brothers. Thanks to them for being born early, Xiaoyun and I's chances of survival have improved a lot." "No need to thank you. They almost killed you and my little sister. The merits are equal to the faults." Sisters Feng Qingxiu and brothers Feng Lei and Feng Jiu had no contact with each other. In Lu Jiang's eyes, they were worse than strangers. At least some strangers showed kindness to them occasionally. Feng Qingxiu had no feelings for them and nodded very quickly. However, as Lu Jiang's status became higher and higher, Feng Qingxiu was no longer as good as the village girl in the past. The family's reputation had spread all over the country. Feng Lei and Feng Yu started to gain momentum, especially Feng Qingxiu's sister-in-law Zhao Guihua and her 2 sons have reached marriageable age. In order to find a good daughter-in-law, they spread the word that her sister-in-law is the wife of the army commander. "No, because my sister-in-law is the wife of the military commander, there is indeed an educated youth who doesn't know the details and is willing to marry the eldest daughter of their family. As the nephew-in-law of the military commander's wife, she would be extremely enviable if she told her about it." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1616. Feng Xuanxuan is old and has retired from the position of party secretary. Currently, the former accountant Feng Teng takes over. Feng Teng is the one who knows the most about Feng Qingxiu's life-saving grace to Kahua Brigade besides Feng Juan. Because the work value of Kahua Brigade is not high, they can barely guarantee everyone's food rations by planting large areas of sweet potatoes every year, so they owe Feng Teng the most. Qingxiu has never paid back the money. After working hard for several years, she can finally pay her back 100 yuan. There was no way to repay it all, so the brigade had to keep some money in its account for emergencies. Feng Teng walked through the snow to the Wanglu brigade, handed Wang Zhenqiu 100 yuan, and asked him to remit it to Feng Qingxiu. When he came back, he told Feng Xuan, but he heard that the educated youth Ni Hongping was going to marry the eldest daughter of the Fenglei family. Information. Over the past few years, there have been 40 or 50 educated youths who have joined the Kahua brigade, and most of them have settled down, got married, and had children. For Feng Teng, this development is good, because Kahua brigade is very poor, and there are many families that favor boys over girls, resulting in more boys than girls. If there are no female educated youth, there will be many gay men who will be single. Marry, Feng Teng frowned. Marriage is not unusual, but what is strange is that one of the protagonists is Feng Qingshan, which is Dabao's name, and the second treasure's name is Feng Qinghe. Feng Xuanzwen nodded and sighed. Although Xiaoxiu has no contact with her two brothers' families, she and Lu Zhang have high status. They usually meet senior cadres and leaders. Speaking of which, He is the most famous person in the brigade, and it also benefits his hometown. Feng Lei and Feng Yu will benefit a lot from this. Based on the idea that family scandals should not be publicized, outsiders did not know the relationship between Feng Qingxiu and her natal brother. Zhao Guihua and Li Qiaheng, who had returned to their old ways after returning from labor reform, took advantage of the fact that others did not know and only said that they were Feng Qingxiu's natal sister-in-law and Lu Zhang. My uncle and sister-in-law actually made friends with a few people who worked in the city. When I went to the city occasionally, I could always buy some processing products through this relationship, such as processing cloth, pig waste, etc. Li Qiaheng also gave her daughter a big gift and I found her husband's family in the city. Feng Teng had nothing to do about this situation, forget it, I can't control them. People who are willing to make friends with their family don't have simple ideas. If they know the true relationship between Xiaoxiu and her brother and sister-in-law in the future, they deserve not to get any benefits. I think so too. Let them go. As long as we don't take advantage of Xiaoxiu's power to do evil, we won't come forward. It was Feng Qingxiu who saved Feng Xuan's life, and Feng Qingxiu also saved many people from the Kahua brigade. Man, he would not stand by and watch the two brothers Feng Lei and Feng Jiao and their wives and children bully others. Feng Teng deeply felt the same. Brothers Feng Lei and Feng Yu have learned to be smart, and Dabao and Erbao are also very shrewd. They have gained a lot of benefits from using their power, but they have not done anything that is outrageous. The marriage of Dabao this time is between you and me, right? Yes, when I heard that Dabao's aunt was the wife of a military commander and had a high status in the capital, how could that female educated youth care about anything else? I heard from Xiaoxiu's second aunt that the educated youth ordered a few female educated youths who were similar to Dabao's age. After a lot of fighting, Ni Hongping, who was the most beautiful, gained the upper hand. Feng Xuanzwen frowned and expressed helplessness. Although the two couples Feng Lei and Feng Yu are not good people, Feng Lei and Feng Yu are good looking, and Dabao and Erbao are also talented people. They are the most outstanding among the young people in the Kahua brigade, and they attract some little girls who don't know the details. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1617. When it comes to Dabao, it is inevitable to mention the second treasure. Erbao Feng Qinghe, who is 1 year older than Feng Qingyun, has a good temperament. He has a gentle temperament, is honest and open-minded, and is very considerate. He looks just as good as his eldest brother, but he is not as sweet-tongued as his eldest brother, so he is not like Dabao Feng. Qingshan is so lovable, and his parents favor his eldest brother more and often ignore him. It's a pity for Erbao. He is smart, good at reading, and has a high school education. Feng Teng's side, if his parents had a better relationship with Xiaoxiu, and were not so greedy and vicious. With Xiaoxiu's temperament, I will definitely promote my mother's family well. If my brother and sister-in-law can't support him, why don't they care about his nephew? Feng Xuanzu smiled faintly. Things have reached this point, no matter how sorry I am for the second treasure, it's useless. Feng Teng whispered, our brigade has 2 recruitment quotas for this year, and I want to give one to Urbeo. Feng Xuanzui was stunned after hearing this. Urbeo couldn't stand what his parents and eldest brother were doing, and he wanted to serve the motherland. He went to school in the Wangla Brigade for several years, and he never talked about what his aunt was like his eldest brother, who was a military commander, and how powerful his wife was. He is powerful and usually very helpful. I am willing to give him a chance and cannot let him stay at home and be spoiled by his parents. After Feng Teng explained seriously, he continued, if nothing else, just because of his parents' partiality, it will inevitably lead to all kinds of discord in the future due to partiality. Aren't all honest people in our countryside suffering? Feng Xuanzu thought for a while. It's feasible. I think it's feasible. What you said makes sense. Having Lu Zhang in the Wangla Brigade is enough to protect everyone in the Wangla Brigade. Feng Xuanzu, who cares about the Kahua Brigade, naturally hopes to have someone in the Wangla Brigade, so that at least he will not be bullied by powerful people in the future. King He is the most outstanding young man in the Kahua team. Apart from his parents, Feng Xuanzao certainly hopes that he will return home in glory. After discussing with Feng Xuan, Feng Teng went to find Qing He. Although it was freezing cold, King He was not idle. Instead, he was chopping firewood, weaving chicken coops, and knitting shoes at home, with quick hands and feet. On the other hand, Qingshan had already gone to find his fiancée Ni Hongping. Seeing Feng Teng's figure, King He immediately stood up and called their grandpa. Feng Teng asked, are you alone at home? Yes, the eldest brother went to see Comrade Hongping. My parents went to the city to see if they could buy some pig offal and pork rinds for free. If they couldn't buy it, they asked someone to find a way. It will be necessary under the new year. It's a wedding for my eldest brother. Just in case they're not around, let me tell you something. King He asked what it was about, and Feng Teng naturally talked about the conscription. The country recruits troops every year, and the documents are issued in January, but when they are conveyed to them, the collection usually starts in February or March, most of which are in March. Do you want to be a soldier? Feng Teng asked. King He was extremely excited. Did the recruitment documents reach us? There is no good man who doesn't want to be a soldier to protect his family and country. Feng Teng pursed his lips and smiled. Yes, there are 2 places assigned to our team, and I decided to give you one. Whether you can be selected depends on your ability. You have no problem with the composition, but it depends on you in the physical examination. King He was very happy. Thank you, third grandpa, thank you, third grandpa, I will definitely eat more and exercise well. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1618. Worried about the long nights and dreams, King He quickly followed Feng Teng to the brigade office and filled out a registration form. Feng Teng stamped it and handed it in tomorrow. Along with it, there was another young man's registration, who was also a relatively outstanding Feng family child. After Feng Glei and Zhao Guihua returned home with a full load, they learned about the incident and had no objections. Okay, soldiers are paid, and the salary is very high. From now on, you will send your salary home every month. Anyway, the army will be responsible for your food and clothing in the army, so there is no place to spend money. Zhao Guihua, he said cheerfully, the work value of our brigade is too low. When your brother got married, he had to make quilts and clothes. He also had to prepare a banquet. He squeezed his head and bought some pork rinds and candy cubes. He saved $10 in his hand. All the money has been spent in a few years, and I am worried that I will have no money to live in the future. Perhaps thinking that what she said was a bit inappropriate for her younger son, Zhao Guihua rolled her eyes and quickly said the next sentence, "The main thing is to save your salary to marry you a wife, and marrying a wife costs money." Fen Glei nodded beside him, "Your eldest brother has spent all the family's money on getting a wife, so you can only rely on yourself to get a wife." Qingshan also encouraged, "Erbao, you must pass the screening, become a soldier, and be promoted. Our family will depend on you in the future. You must know that if I sign up to join the army, you will have no chance. This opportunity is given to you, so don't forget the great kindness our father and mother have shown you." King He smiled slightly, "Yes, brother is right." What a fart! King He felt cold in his heart. His eldest brother couldn't bear the hardship. The militia company had selected him before, but the eldest brother didn't agree and had to replace him. As a result, he couldn't bear the hardship of training and ran back pretending to be sick. The current quota for joining the army was given by Feng Teng, but in his words, it turned into an opportunity given to him. Is it shameful? Growing up, what my eldest brother had, I didn't necessarily have. What I had, my eldest brother also had, but he still had to take it away from me. The so-called brotherhood is worthless to him. Zhao Guihua didn't know that her youngest son had always been obedient to her husband and wife in order to live a quiet life after he became a teenager. She smiled from ear to ear and said, "Yes, yes, this is the opportunity your brother gave you, you must take good care of it, and don't forget to repay your brother, you are brothers, brothers are like brothers." Faced with this attitude of his parents, King He wanted to escape from this home even more. When he was a child, he was ignorant and his brother bullied his sister-in-law. He thought it was natural. As he grew older and with the guidance of his teacher, he understood right and wrong. He hated himself both as a child and as he grew up. He hated himself all the time. They all live in the shadow of their parents, unable to see the sunshine outside. Leaving home was his only way out, and joining the army was his lifelong ambition. God was probably willing to bless him. In early March of the following year, he passed the conscription screening and became a recruit with honor. He finally left his hometown and participated in recruit training. Recruit training usually lasts 3 months. King He worked very hard. He didn't want to fall behind others or go home, so he had to work harder. The commander of the new company naturally saw it, and no one dislikes such soldiers. After the training, King He was assigned to the Wuchen army in the capital military region. When he set off with the recruits assigned to the Wuchen army, it was already hot summer. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1619. The winter in Wuchen is cold and long, the spring is very windy and sandy, and the summer is cooler than in the south and the capital. The geographical location of Weihai City is rather awkward. It is neither south nor north. Generally speaking, it belongs to the north. It mainly eats pasta. Moreover, King He has been used to farm work since he was a child. His training results are very good and he adapts very quickly. At the same time, he also knows that the commander of the army is Lu Zhang. Feng Qingxiu had been married for more than 10 years, and King He didn't have a deep impression of her, no, almost no impression, let alone his uncle Lu Zhang. Because he went to junior high school in Wanglu Brigade, he had met Zibao several times. Although everyone said that one of Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu was handsome and tall, and the other outstandingly beautiful, it was hard for King He to imagine what it was like for them to be absent from home for many years and still be talked about by everyone. Unlike his parents, uncles, aunts, brothers, and cousins, King He didn't have a good relationship with his aunts. He always pretended to be powerful and took advantage of their power to benefit himself. He never mentioned his relationship with Feng Qingxiu's aunt and nephew in the army. When others asked about him regarding his family situation, he said that he was born into a poor peasant and had a high school education, which was higher than that of most rural soldiers. A person with a high level of education will be taken seriously. What's more, King He is particularly handsome. He has the Chinese character face that is most favored by everyone. He has long eyebrows and handsome eyes. After several months of military training, he has lost his gentleness and solidity, and his strong eyebrows reveal awe-inspiring righteous. Lu Zhang attaches great importance to the good talents among this batch of recruits. After 2 months of training, the first name he saw was Feng Qinghe. At first, he didn't expect that Feng Qinghe was the second son of his brother-in-law, because the two families had no contact, and his wife didn't know the name of her nephew. She just thought that the surname was more affectionate, and the color of Qing Qing and Yundanfenking were light. Homophonic. Later, when I saw his composition, place of origin, parents' names, and other related information, I frowned involuntarily. Fen Glei's son joined the army. And they were assigned to the Wuchen troops. It was a coincidence that Lu Zhang didn't think much about it. Except for some high-ranking cadres who had connections in their families, all the recruits were randomly assigned and could go to people from all over the world. There was no chance of manipulation. Except for Feng Qingxiu, there was no one in the Feng family who could use their personal power to arrange troops for Feng Qinghe. Lu Zhang put down the information on Feng Qinghe and continued to read the information on the next good seedling, so that he knew it well. After half a year of training and elimination, the original Special Forces force of more than 2,000 people now has only 1,000 people left, and the elimination process continues. It is conservatively estimated that only about 500 people will be left in the end. Therefore, Lu Zhang has contacted all major military regions. This year we will continue to select top talents and send them here. No matter what, we must first train the strongest special forces for the country. There were fewer special forces in training, and the burden on Feng Qingxiu's shoulders was also lighter. Dr. Li, who was originally injured, recovered and returned to the team. Then the superiors agreed to Lu Jiang's request and sent 3 old professors who were proficient in foreign languages from various countries and had excellent compositions. Come over. Feng Qingxiu is relatively relaxed now, her work is on track, she has time to continue studying, and she also has time to care about her children. At the beginning of this spring, Feng Qingyun returned to the capital with the group to prepare for further study abroad. Luo Xiaoxiu also returned to the capital to continue school after the rumors subsided, taking away several basic Chinese medicine books. Feng Qingxiu and Lu Zhang sent the triplets to when the school went to kindergarten. Zhu Lei only had to be responsible for picking up the children, doing laundry, cooking, and cleaning. Cheng Baoqiu and Wang Quilin and their wives followed Lu's father and grandson back to Huihei City before the busy farming season. Back to the 60s, the struggle career of a charmed wife. Author, Ning Xiaobai. Chapter 1620. In the blink of an eye, summer ends and autumn arrives. Wuchen borders Inner Mongolia and the northeast. The summer is relatively short. Autumn comes quickly and gets cold very quickly. There is no such thing as autumn tiger. It seems that if you wore a shirt yesterday, you have to add a thick coat on top of the shirt today. Feng Qingxiu didn't wear a coat, and added a sky blue woolen v-neck waistcoat to her white shirt. The shirt and waistcoat were both common styles, but they looked fresh and delicate when worn on her. Lu Zhang glanced at them again and again. That look made Feng Qingxiu blush and her heart beat. What are you looking at? Feng Qingxiu glared at him, spreading her hair that had just been washed and wiped with a towel until it didn't drip. This hair is black and shiny, like satin, and waist length. Even though it is troublesome to wash it and it often freezes in winter, she is reluctant to cut it off. She only simply trims the ends of her hair on February 2nd every year. The length continues to increase. Lu Zhang also fell in love with her hair and was about to touch it when Lu Erxiang rushed in from the door shouting, "Mom, is there anything to eat? I'm starving." Ye Yan and Fu Bao walked slowly behind with Dun Dun and Zhuang Chuang. 4 school bags, large and small, were hung on Ye Yan. They were talking and laughing, showing a harmonious atmosphere, unlike Lu Erxiang who was always in a hurry about everything he did. Look like Ye Yan and Fu Bao are older and do not need their parents to take them to and from school. Instead, they take their younger brothers to and from school with them. As a result, Zhu Lei felt much more relaxed. There was no danger in the army compound, and the school was not far from home. Lu Zhang and Feng Qingxiu gradually felt relieved. Feng Qingxiu did not answer Lu Erxiang's words, but first went to pick up the school bag from Ye Yan. "You kid, aren't you tired of carrying so many school bags?" "I'm not tired," Ye Yan said honestly. "Fu Bao and I just put a few books and a pencil case in our school bags, and the triplets just put a few little books. We're not tired at all, really." He was afraid that Feng Qingxiu wouldn't believe it, so he accentuated his tone in the end. "Even if you're not tired, you can't carry their school bags for them." Feng Qingxiu turned to teach her daughter, Dun Dun and Zhuang Chuang, "Do your own thing, don't bother brother Ye Yan, you know." Fu Bao nodded obediently. "Look, brother Ye Yan, have I been punished? Don't carry my school bag for me anymore." Ye Yan smiled and shrugged. "It's okay, Auntie didn't scold you, she just cared about me being tired. I'm an older brother, isn't it natural for me to carry school bags for my younger siblings? If my dad sees me not helping you, school bag, if I don't help my brother with his school bag, I will be scolded as not being a good brother. Therefore, it is better for him to listen to his father. It doesn't matter if he doesn't listen to his aunt, she won't scold him, but his father is different and always wants him to be a good brother." Feng Qingxiu was helpless, with several school bags hanging on her arms. "When will your father come back and ask him to come to me? As a child, you have to cultivate independence from an early age. How can I rely on you for everything? You are an elder brother, right? Reason." Ye Yan and Fu Bao stuck out their tongues, and Lu Erxiang put his head between them dissatisfied. "I'm hungry." Zhu Lei wore an apron around his waist and walked into the house with a pot of mushroom stewed chicken from the kitchen. He said with a smile, "The food is ready. Erxiang, have you and your brothers, sisters, and brothers washed their hands? After washing our hands, it's time to eat." Smelling the aroma wafting from the enamel basin, Lu Erxiang's saliva suddenly flowed out. "It's chicken."